Hey there, I'm Mark from Spectrum Pulse, and today we finally have from ShrapKnel Nobody Planning to Leave. If there's something I deeply regret not covering in 2022, it was ShrapKnel's sophomore album Metal Lung, expanding their thorny, ramshackle menace of their debut into a more claustrophobic and creatively diverse project in production and bars, and it's legit great. Hell, I saw them live that same year, and if I'd got the lyric sheet, I probably would have covered it. It probably would have made my year-end list. But this time I was not about to make that mistake again, so on their third album, produced entirely by Controller 7, I actually got the lyrics from the duo directly, and despite being rather late to the punch, I am happy to get to it. But truth be told, this is a difficult and abstract album to parse, and I think there was gonna be delays regardless in this review, even if I will argue this might be their most viscerally bruising album to date. So having recovered from cancer and surgery, Curly Castro raps with a hungry vengeance as the references to Golden Age hip-hop, comic books, sci-fi, wrestling, and vicious intent pile up en masse. His verses on Live Element and Finga Piano, they're just absurd, and he basically saves Illusions of P for probably the one beat here I don't like. And I caught that hilarious Max Kellerman reference on Kaishakunin, which is a great balance against PremRock's more thoughtfully melancholic bars, but it also feels like there's more ambitious flair this time around beyond just stalking and lurking on the fringes in underground rap. This is staking territory, daring the challenge, where the album's title is braggadocious, but also a subtle promise to themselves in facing both external and internal pressures, where they're very conscious that when they're playing their game, they might wind up getting left behind by the rapacious industry, with more than a few hazy shots made at Puff Daddy that for two New York underground MCs, especially with the history going back to the late 90s, it feels well deserved. But where I think I hear the most advancement comes in how the songs seem to coalesce a little bit more effectively. Dadaism 3 recognizes the power of what could be branded as anti-art and the wildly human contradictions that allows their power to be asserted in the gaps. And Open Mike Eagle just fits on it wonderfully. And I love when PremRock takes the lead on Human Form, where he sets himself against the compromises of the failing industry, but also wonders how much his rawness might actually equate to realness, even if ultimately it doesn't really matter when those seeking profit aren't going to think that deeply about it anyways. Echoed in those implied cycles of violence and decay on Nutkracker Blues, and what injecting guns into those unstable environments mean on D Space 9 Millie Pulled a Pistol. A very damning power that's directly mirrored in the samples that follow the verses. But that poetic echo, it's all over this project, where the hostile environments are painted for ShrapKnel for them to then assert control. Although as the album ends on the rather downbeat Worry Doll, the results don't always get the rewards one hopes, especially when things feel increasingly apocalyptic. But still, that echo is sometimes within the same track, but sometimes like between Kaishakunin and Finga Piano, with just impeccable sequencing, with maybe only Bogdan interlude feeling a little off for being so early in the track list. But for as many beat switches as we will get across this album, full of clanking, off-kilter grooves, the flow is genuinely impressive. Although I do think a few more hooks with the swagger of a Sadatay might have put this over more strongly. But if there is a place where I was most pleasantly surprised, although knowing my history I shouldn't be, it was with Controller 7's production. Still capturing that spare and jagged grind of ShrapKnel that can feel dizzying, but actually giving them more melodic space amidst the grit for some songs to really pop off with a lot of distinctive character, like the eerie, warping weirdness of Dadaism 3, Live Element, Finga Piano, and the keening amidst the multiple switch-ups on Uru Metal with ELUCID that can coexist alongside the jazzy atmospherics of the smoky Human Form, the mournful elegance of Nutkracker Blues, the wheezy horns and the reverse cymbals that come through on Kaishakunin, the sandy royal of Metallo, but also the meandering darkness of Worry Doll. And that's not to exclude how those hammering clanks on Pan Labyrinth, it just goes hard as all hell. But as a whole, I am really happy I had enough time to fully digest Nobody Planning to Leave, because it really is a great project in the vein of many of those weirder late 90s East Coast underground records, in the reference to Company Flow, LP, Cannibal Ox, Def Jux, with bruisers on the microphone that are gonna make you work for nearly every bar to see how they all fit together, but the delivery and flair is actually visceral enough to carry this wild experience that is easily their most flavorful to date. And what's promising is that I still think there's another tier for this duo to reach. For as much as their lyrical posturing is rather rewarding, a little bit more thematic focus or ambition could put them in that higher tier altogether. But the way they're going, the title of this album is a very welcome promise. You probably missed this, I know I'm late to it, but you should absolutely check this out. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching. If you want to see more, please be sure to like, share, drop comments, subscribe. Yes, I know I am late to the ShrapKnel album, but man, it goes hard. I'm happy that I got the lyrics as one of those underground rap records that I had to actually reach out to the duo directly, and Curly Castro got them to me. Very grateful for that. There's a few other rappers who should really get on that, you know, if you know, you know. Beyond that, though, anything else I might be able to do to improve my presentation, I'm all ears. And if y'all haven't heard this, or you wish that this album got on my schedule for me to talk about it earlier, or you want to support the channel or argue with me on my Discord, link to my Patreon is right over there. Don't feel obligated, tough times, I understand, but I'm not going anywhere, and the option is available. Till then, I'm Mark, you're watching Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.